obscure world of parking. We use it every day, but have we really capitalized on the intricacies of our industry? In this podcast, the Parking Network will go behind the scenes and talk to industry professionals about all things parking, from the horizon of evolving technology and even stories of the old days. We hope to encourage and inspire operators and property managers alike to look at parking through a new lens.
Okay, welcome everyone to our Parking Industry Podcast. This is Clyde Wilson and Lee Thomas, and we have a special guest with us today, Laura Caillot, and I probably mispronounced her name, but I think I was close at least. And we're going to talk about such an important subject for the parking industry today, and that's license plate recognition with SureVision. License plate recognition has been around for a long time. I can still remember the very first LPR presentation that I ever went to with the IPMI. It was in Seattle in about 1997, I think. And so it's been around a while and it's been maturing a while. And with the companies like SureVision, it has really taken a giant leap forward. So we're really excited to see all the great benefits of what LPR has done for our industry. And it's great to have a great person that's new to our industry, kind of, I think. I don't know. We're about to hear the history here in just a second. And the company that she represents that is becoming such an important part of our industry. So, Laura, I'll let you start off with telling us about you and how you got here.
Well, thank you, Clyde. Thank you so much for having me. We're very excited. All the team here is excited about being on this podcast. Let's tell a little bit about my story. As you said, now people are kind of familiar in the industry with me, but maybe not really with my story and how I ended up here. So. As you can hear, I'm not from here. So I was born and raised in Italy. So I'm Italian. As you know, the company is French, not Italian. But my parents are French too. So let's say that they moved to Italy. So I've been an immigrant all my life. So I was born as a French immigrant in Italy, and then I moved for some years in South America, where I lived in Venezuela for 5 years. And what is interesting about this is how I came to the technology world. So I graduated in literature. So I was very far away from technology. I was a very romantic person reading many books. And then when I moved to Venezuela, I started working in a tech company, which was like Best Buy, more or less, but for South America. So I got familiar with technology, mainly retail, of course, electronics. And after, when I moved to Miami, this company transferred me to Miami, where their main office was. And here in Miami, I found, after I finished with this company, I found SureVision. They were looking for somebody to open the US activities, so from scratch. And it's been an amazing journey, knowing about this technology, about the world that was completely new from me. And for many people, like license plate recognition is not something that you're thinking about every day. But it's definitely, what I found out is that it is everywhere. So every day, each one of us have license plate recognition in their life. When you wake up, you go to a tolling, you go on your highway and somebody's reading your plate. Then you go to a parking lot to park your cars, and again we read your plate. And then the police will pass by and they're going to read your plate. So we don't think about it, but it's really part of our everyday life. So that's how I ended up in license plate recognition. And talking about parking, we do LPR for many different industries, for tolling, access control, smart cities, police. But in the US, when I started, investigating about all this industry, I really kind of fell in love with the parking one. I thought it was the when I went to a parking trade show, I liked the people there, the ambience, the energy was completely different from the tolling one. No, I don't want to talk bad about the tolling one, but it's a completely different ambience. So I really had a good time, and that's when we decided to really concentrate our efforts mainly in the parking industry and really specialize ourselves in LPR for parking in the US. So that's the story in a nutshell.
Good. Well, we really appreciate that. I always wanted to know your story, and I never did. I knew it had to be interesting. So I'm glad we've had the opportunity now to learn about your long meandering path to end up with us, and we're happy, certainly happy to have you. The parking industry, all of us are happy to have you here. So let's start with LPR has been something that has just always been fascinating to me. And I had it a part of one of the companies I did 10 years ago. And it was then not as good as it is today. So I started having to learn a lot about how to deal with some of the inadequacies of the LPR, but I always thought it was a great thing to have and to learn. So let's start with, why don't you tell us a little bit about the background of LPR and how it's journeyed. Its journey is as good a one as yours is, almost, from getting from where it was to where it is today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. I think it's also an interesting story how this technology was born, and it was initially born in the UK, in Europe, in London, for mainly for the city of London, when wanted to measure the traffic and really for security mainly. So it was, very old way of doing LPR. So you had this camera, you have a huge server to add where it will process the image and trying to do some OCR of the basics of OCR, which is optical character recognition. So to make it very, very basic, like when you get your iPhone today and you take a picture of a text in Chinese or wherever, it will recognize it, correct, and then translate it. That's OCR, optical character recognition. So it's recognizing a text from an image. So initially, it was obviously not so easy as it is today with an iPhone. So you need a very strong server and all of that to do that. So that was born in UK at the beginning of like 1970, something like that. It improved so much. We were born in 1999 in Paris. So, French people always like to try to do the same thing, but UK, there's always, a war between London and Paris for tourism, for security, for everything. And that's when LPR was born also in France. And we were the first one doing it. And we did it mainly for the police market. That's how we started. Like our first engineers, our company was founded by engineers. Still today, they are the one that really like do everything in the company. So yes, so that's how we also were born. And at the time, the accuracy, of course, was kind of, when you can read something, it's good. So that's was more or less the KPIs we had at the time, not try to read something. Things have definitely changed. And I can say that I started here 7 years ago. And in even just these 7 years, I've seen an improvement that is just impressive on the technology itself. And it's not just for SurVision or anything like that. It's because of artificial intelligence. So we use this word a lot. And now when we think about AI, we think, about ChatGPT and asking stuff and having answers. But really, AI works a lot for us as well. Because to make it simple, let's say before the OCR was like, okay, this is an A. Okay, so I will draw a triangle. These are the pixels of an A. So anything that more or less looks like these pixels, we'll try to think it is an A. So that's how it worked, like in basic explanation. So nowadays with AI, what we do is really we cut out all the possible A's that we can have, which if you think about it, an A in an image on a plate at 6 a.m. in Canada is not the same A that you can see at 7 p.m. in Florida on an image, no? So it's a completely different A, pixel talking. So that makes help a lot the engine to recognize a plate, because now we cut all these A and we feed the engine, the AI neural network, to know this is an A because I've seen this A before, which is more or less how our brain works. We know it's an A wherever because we can, our mind will feel, oh yeah, it looks like an A. So that helps. Like, it's a really game changer also for our technology.
Good. So then moving forward, yeah, I know LPR has had such an interesting journey, and fortunately I've been around long enough to kind of watch it move forward, and had periods of time that I was concerned about whether it was going to keep up or not, because you could see the demand and everybody requiring more and more of it. But I had a good friend of mine that worked for one of the parking equipment manufacturers that knew I was terribly interested in it. So he took me to one of the toll roads in California, into the office, and I stood there over the back of the desk of the guy that was watching LPRs and watched him and watched the challenges that he had. And it was interesting to watch because I learned more there probably than I had anywhere else other than with Laura talking. And now I've just learned a whole new set. So I'm moving forward with my LPR knowledge. So Laura, there's a wide variety of industries that use LPR, and you've mentioned some of them. What are some of the particular challenges that you guys have today? Let's look at today. Now, we've moved to here. What kind of challenges are you having with producing to a level that you're happy with?
Yeah, sure. So it goes back a little bit, like you have two different challenges. Let's say talking about hardware itself, that we have less and less hardware in our lives, if you think about it, no?
Right.
Before you need, photo camera, a phone, like you had a huge bag when you go on vacation, and now you just have a smartphone and you're good with everything. And I think it's a little bit the same also for us, trying to, to reduce the footprint of the hardware the most. But at the same time, what I just mentioned, AI, what does is that it consumes a lot of processing power. So it's the opposite of what, like, we're trying to get rid of hardware, but then you need a lot of processing power. So that's, I think it's a challenge. And that's our main goal also, is to be able to merge these two needs. So having the right product, but having that power that you need, and trying to really make it simple and keep it simple.
Right.
So that's what we're doing in the parking industry in general. I think LPR, and mainly in the US, it's sometimes challenging because of the distances, recognition distances. That's very particular of parking for us. Because if you think about tolling, well, you have a gantry, you have a big highway, you're like wherever you want, like you're perfectly in shape to do to apply your technology. When you see parking, and I remember, it's funny because of course the company comes from Europe. So in Europe, you have very nice and standardized license plate. Everybody has a front plate. The world is
everybody
easier.
doesn't have a Florida Gator symbol on their license.
Correct.
Right.
Instead here, you kind of use the LPR the license plate to do funny things, or to say what you believe, or like this kind of thing. It's complicated. And then you don't have many states, and I live in Miami, so here we don't have a front plate, like nobody has a front plate.
Right.
So that makes things difficult for parking for us, because it means that we have to read the rear plate. And then, what's up? You're in the middle of a street. So if you're in the middle of a street, you cannot install a camera there. It's not allowed.
Right.
So I think that's a big challenge that we have in the United States with license plate recognition, is to find the right recognition distance and the flexibility that we have to provide to parking operators to install our technology anywhere. So that's, I would say, that's very particular to parking, this challenge.
Yeah, I had a location that held LPR, and this was in 2016, I think, in south of Atlanta. And I think I had 10 different cars in the garage that had 10 different symbols on it. You know, I had Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Gators, Peaches, all kinds of stuff on there. And I watched the challenge of this. And then in Miami, in Maryland, you have the stacked letters.
Yes.
So you have two. And just about the time we thought we had the two stacked letters good, they came out with three stacked letters.
Yes.
So now the letters are really small and they're stacked on top of each other. And it was an interesting challenge. So where do you now? I know you're sitting on the front end of the technology in LPR. So where do you see this now, and where do you see it moving to?
Yes, it's a great question. I think that what is going to be more and more important in the parking industry is the vehicle identification in general, which LPR is the main actor now, because as you know, we are going more and more frictionless, like trying to adapt to how we live today. So
Right.
we don't go to a travel agency anymore to buy a trip. We just do everything from our phone or our desk. And parking is a little bit also have to going in this direction, like using your phone to pay
Right.
for parking and not having to wait at the gate and all of that. So when you go on that direction, then you need a good technology to identify vehicles, which right now definitely LPR is the main technology to do that, because you have a plate already on the vehicle, which is the difference with RFID or other technology where you need to add a sticker or add something. In our case, you're just using what is on the vehicle. But I see in the future is that we have to provide and go a little bit out of the plate, like really use all this technology, AI, etc., to get the plate, but also really identify the vehicle to make sure the accuracy goes up and up, and we know exactly which vehicle it was at the entrance, at the exit, and it was the same between the entrance and the exit. So I think that's where all us in this technology of identifying vehicles we have to work for, and make sure that we can provide the right vehicle to the enforcer or to the operation.
Okay, well, that's an interesting statement about the identifying the vehicle, and so my knowledge of that is limited compared to yours. So, but just to kind of lead into this, you can take a car with a license plate of 1234, and it's a Chevrolet Tahoe, a blue Chevrolet Tahoe. So when you come in, the LPR camera, I'm assuming, reads both. It gets the license plate and it gets the identification of the car. So if by chance on the way out it reads a different license number, but it's a blue Chevy Tahoe, it knows this much match, right? So that's kind of really zooming up the recognition of LPRs. Is that correct?
Correct. Like what I think that's what we're actively working on our innovation path.
Right.
Is that we have to try to improve the matching rate, because one
Right.
thing is the accuracy at each lane. So let's say
Right.
you should be in the US around 96% of accuracy at the entrance and 96% at the exit. Let's imagine something like that. But that 96 and the R96 maybe are not the same vehicle. Maybe you made a mistake at the entrance, but you didn't make at the exit. So when you calculate the matching rate, it's lower than that, because
Right.
sometimes the mistake is not the same on one side and on the other.
Right.
So what we're trying to do on and innovate in that field is to see, okay, so let's say I read, as your example, ABC4 at the entrance, and at the exit I read ABCA, for instance. But it's the same make and model, and it is the same car that I read last time, like trying to really utilize all these AI to see, okay, so I made already this mistake once, and then because the 4 and the 8, it's a mistake I do often. So I'll probably think it's the same. And also I can see that this car already came in. So,
Right.
I'm not that, like, trying to really merge all the information that you can have to provide even a better accuracy to identify the vehicle in general.
Yes, that is. I've been watching this now, and it's so interesting how that's moving that rate up. When I started the first company that I did that had LPR in it, really was starting around 13 and 14, and we went into operation in 2015. And we're in the parking business. The toll road can miss a few license plates, and they can kind of correct it down the road. We can't. We have to have 100% accuracy, or we start losing or causing some problems at the exit and losing some accountability. So it's been really interesting to watch LPR mature since I first saw it in 1997 and have watched it move to today. So now it's getting down to where it's in that position to go after the very, very fine points.
Yes.
So this is, we're in the Parking Networks is primarily a parking financial review and audit company. And so we're really interested in the accountability side. Is this working for accountability? And we're seeing LPR become more and more and more a part of every entry and exit. So to us, it's really important to kind of see how it's starting to narrow down and cut out those few points of problems that we've had in the past. So let me ask the next question about the recognizing the car. One of the more interesting stories I have, and I won't waste your podcast to tell it, but was a bicycle rack. So where do you see that? I mean, that's there. I'll tell you the quick part of the story. We had a customer that was mad. They couldn't stand this new equipment we had put in. She was so mad, and she finally went to the building and said, "I'm canceling the lease. I can't get in this place. I'm really upset with this." And so they asked us to help. So we said, "Well, let's see the picture of the license plate." So we get the picture, and it's totally covered by a bike rack. And so we called her up and said, "Ma'am, we really can't take a picture of your license plate if your bike rack is covering the whole license plate." And she went, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But we still have those guys. So
no, for sure. One thing I always say to our clients, or even to our, like, really the final users,
right.
is that as with every technology, like with any technology, you have to set expectations.
Right.
So I think once you set expectation correctly and people know what to do and how it works, they will get it and they will understand.
They will. Oh, they will. She got it right away and was very embarrassed.
Like I always say, because people, I don't know, they sort of think that it's like a magical thing. But I always say, like, if you cannot see it with your own eyes,
right.
I can assure the camera will not read it. So that's like the first point. Like, because sometimes people think, oh, like, I cannot see it, but probably the camera can. It's like, no. So that's the first thing, no, really to know how it works. And so you really take advantage of it. Even if it's maybe not 100%. I often use the example of a facial recognition that we use every day on the phone.
Right.
Sometimes it happens that it doesn't recognize you because of the light or because you're wearing something strange or like. So, but at the end, it's still an amazing technology to have. Like, it's helping you most of the time. Like, sometimes you have these struggles, but it's still helping a lot in improving any operation. Same thing for us, but when you're cooking and you just put your face and it's done. So I think it's the same. Like, I often say when people complain about, a couple of plates that have not been readden, I've seen that the best way is to turn everything off. And so suddenly we're like, oh, but this now it's a mess. Like, we have a man, everybody's there's a line, there is, oh, okay, yeah, of course, because 96% of people were working correctly. So now, so I think it's about setting expectation, and people will definitely understand how it works, and that sometimes it can feel like any technology.
Okay, so you're on the front end of this. Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Look, we have been talking a lot about this need for communication in our industry. So, Laura, whenever I really appreciate you saying that we need to set expectations. How is your vision and how are your clients doing this well? How do you communicate expectations about LPR users?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's very hard for us, by the way, because sometimes, like most of the time, we are a little bit too far away from the final client. No, like Clyde. Like I know Clyde, but we'll probably don't never work directly with Clyde. Like we are often very far away because there's either a parking system or like there's something between us. So one thing that we've been doing for a long time now is to create product awareness, like try to really position ourselves with blogs, with contents, with information, and being there for any question. But definitely it's not easy to go, and even for us, we are also often wrong until we go on site and you see things. Like I remember when I first started this, I was, thinking, oh, this is so easy. It's great. You just put this, it's gonna open the gate and everything will be perfect. Like I don't know how is it possible, but no, like everybody should have this. And then you go on site and you like it's eye-opening because the operation is another world.
Yeah,
Like your
right.
LPR is there, but then you have a guy, then the other one is going back because he forgot something, and then you have a mess because you read the plate of the last one and not the first. Like the real
Right.
operation is something else. So I think it's very important for us as technology providers to go on the field. This is something that we have done. We are actually like last week for NPA at the Las Vegas airport where our technology is installed. I took a French software developer from France and I say, well, come with us. And he spent, 2 days at the airport, day and night, because they do inventory, as you were mentioning, Clyde.
Sure.
And he was like, oh my God, like this is completely different from how I thought they were using it. So, and it's funny, because he's coding it and he had no idea. Like, and he said, oh, so these guys are driving this way. And then, there's another guy walking. Like, he was imagining things differently. So, about set expectation is on both sides. Like, we have to set expectation with clients and be closer to them to really understand, even if we don't sell directly to them, but we have to hear them because they are the final users of the technology. And also for us, understand them and also set our expectations, no, on both sides. So definitely, I think in the parking industry, it's important that our partnerships, because we work as partnership almost all the time, which is great. It's part of the nice thing of being in this industry that we are partner to provide solutions together. But we also have to partner and to also see who's going to use it at the end and really talk to them and understand their challenges.
It's so interesting. I know this conversation is about LPR, but it's really in the end about parking. And it's something that our group talks about a lot because I started in the parking industry a long time ago when there was nothing to look at my desk. If I wanted to see what was going on, I had to go out in the field. So I see that falling away today. And but there's a part of this thing that never changes because what happens to us happens right there on the island. We're going actually Monday to take a look at a very, very big, busy operation that I don't think is using LPR anywhere near what its possibilities are. But the reality was it's an operation that a friend of mine was saying, Clyde, you really need to take a look at this. And so I was down there 2 weeks ago. So I just walked over. Nobody knew who I was and stood on the island and watched it and went, oh my gosh, this is horrible. This is so hard. And the customers that were in line trying to leave thought I must be somebody, and they start rolling down their windows yelling at me, right?
It has happened to me as well many times.
Right.
And one thing I always say about LPR, it's funny, and I've seen it many times, is that since when you go at the gate, the gate opens for you.
Right.
But people don't see that the gate is open. That
Oh
happens
yeah,
very often. So what
right.
they do is that they're stopping there, trying to push and say, "Oh, this is not working. It's
Working.
not doing anything," and the gate is open in front of them because they had to pray. And I've been there, like even here in Miami, I've been like there on the line and say, like, the gate is open. And so parking system started writing on the machine like, the gate is
Is
open, please
open.
move forward. And it's funny, you have a line just because the guy didn't realize the gate is open. So that's why operation is
It-
completely different from technology. You say, oh, this is great, we're gonna open the gate magically for the guy, and the guy is there waiting to for a ticket. So,
only somebody who has done LPR knows that happens. I mean, I went to, when I put one of my first ones in, I had to walk up to a car and say, "Ma'am," because I kept saying the gate's open, and she's looking, and it's like she didn't have a clue. So I had to walk up to the car and say, "Ma'am, it reads your license plate and the gate's open. You don't have to do anything else." And she went, "Oh gosh," and she drove off. But it happened over and over and over again until the people at this garage finally figured out we were reading their license plate.
it's
So
still the case. It's still the case.
it
Yes,
never
I see.
changes. So that's one of those communications issues, though. We learn that is going to be a problem when you put LPR in new. That's going to be a problem, and so you have to figure out a way. How are you going to tell them? Just step on the gas, please, and go forward. So it's funny that this just this little part of the conversation brings in so much that's important about our business that may not be up to others. It's the customers aren't prepared for it. The gate goes up and the gate's silent, so they don't hear it and see it. And just that you got to stand on the island and see how this works. If you don't get out there on the island, then you'll never ever figure it out. So one of the other things that's kind of new, and we're hearing a little bit about this. So I've been dying to ask you this question. What do you see as some of the legal challenges coming forward with LPR technology? I mean, I've had my early experiences where people saying, "I don't want you to read my license plate," and I said, "Well, I can see it right here. When you're driving down the road, I can read your license plate. If you're trying to hide it, the cops are going to get mad." But they don't understand that. So what have you seen now legally as this moves forward?
Yes, yeah. Well, we are experts on this because in France and in Europe,
Right.
the license plate is considered a personal information, and we have this huge law that protect all the privacy. Very heavy one that the European government took some years ago now, RGPD. And so we've been, that's Europe is our main market. So we've been challenging with this much before it's coming here in some states, because here it depends a lot on which state. As LPR provider, we don't like it's different from us, because what we do is that we read the plate and then we give you the data. So we don't own the data. So for us, it's not such a big problem as it can be for the people that really own the data of these plates. What
Right.
I've seen from clients in Europe is that they sort of encrypt it. So we have some RFP in Europe where we have, to send the plate, but it's encrypted. So somehow it will open the gate, but the users, like, a supervisor that is looking for it, he cannot really see it. So they put these some little rules to protect the privacy of the users. But on our technology, what we do is reading and pushing. But
Right.
sometimes we can definitely do this kind of thing, like you encrypt it, so you can sort of search it, but you cannot see, like, oh, I want to see what this guy is doing every day. So that you cannot.
Yeah. So that brings up an interesting subject because we're working on a location right now that we're doing an audit on, and this one gives us the license plate number. And so we see it on every transaction. We see the license plate number. Um, so I decided one night, well, I think I'll just sort license plate numbers and let's see how often each one of these people come into the garage. And I found there was this huge number that the operator didn't know. There was this huge number of people that only come one time. They're visitors to something, and they're not. So if you encrypt this, can I still, with the encryption, figure this out? Is the same license plate 12345 encrypted with the same information every time it comes in?
Yes, we could. So
You
that's
could?
how we call like the data reporting, let's say. So
Right,
what we could say is that since like we kind of know what plate it is, it's just that you cannot see it.
right,
So what it does is that it's going to say, well, we have, I don't know, 70% of plates that are recurring. So we see them every week.
right,
And then you have 30% of plates that we never see them again. So this
right.
is something that you can sort of take the data from, but without really showing the plates. Anyway, most of the time, like you show the plate because, of course, for operation you need it. For like also for the clients, they need to see an image of what you're
Sure.
saying to them. You say, no, you have not lost your ticket because I can see you here and you came
Right.
30 days ago. And they're gonna say, oh, that was not me. Oh no, yes, it's you because this is a picture.
Right.
So definitely you need it. So at the end, I think it's more sort of a discussion on privacy, on this kind of thing. But when you go back to the operation and the security, it's like, as you said, it doesn't make sense. Like it's helping people. So every day we know LPR also, if you think about the police, it's helping getting people and really providing security to city. Like things happen and they search for the plate, and that's how they find people. So sometimes we have this idea of LPR and reading the plate, we're going to be, having a citation or for tolling, but there are also so many ways to see it as a benefit for our society.
Yes, I've always thought that was very interesting that the police, you can have an LPR system there that's really running a parking garage, but passively behind the scenes, it has the download from the police department of license plates the police are looking for. And so you don't really even know it, but it'll pick up a bad license plate, send it to the police, and the police know exactly where you are. So they can show up and visit our garage. So that's great. This LPR is just so good. So what kind of creative applications are you seeing beyond what we've already talked about in the parking industry? I'm seeing one of the things that I'm seeing, and I may be way off, is using it, and I think this has been around for a long time, but it's getting so much better, using it for inventory. But you may have some other, I'm sure you will because you're in it every day, some other things that you think are creative applications that we're looking forward to in the parking industry.
Yes. Well, I see a lot. Like I often hear, like, I have meetings and they say, oh, because I was thinking of using it for this, and you have all these startup now with brilliant ideas.
How many startups do we have in the parking industry?
Well, I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But
see, I went through 35 years in the parking industry with 0 startups.
yeah.
So this is interesting to me.
No, it's cool. Like it's becoming sort of a Silicon Valley of parking. So it's funny. But yeah, no, like one day I hear a story, this thing, then it didn't go, but I thought it was a nice idea. It was funny. His idea was like sort of adding LPR camera, mobile LPR cameras on Uber or taxis, like all this kind of vehicle. And his idea was like, we can help the city or the police finding, bad guy this way without using a police vehicle, but using any kind of vehicle. Like you have people driving all day long in the city. So why wouldn't we put the cameras there? And I don't know. I thought it was like very creative, but it's an interesting idea. It's not very parking, but it can be also for parking. Like the guy was thinking, like let's grab plates all over. So that was a funny one. But inventory is it's actually one of our the main use of our mobile LPR.
Right.
And yes, and it's they use it even. I thought it was initially mainly for airports, but I've seen that now we have clients, also municipalities or universities, doing also inventory because they need, to be sure and to know which car are there and for how long they stay and this kind of thing. So yes, and events also, I think it's interesting when they do events management. So you go to a stadium for a concert, so they use the LPR at the entrance to make sure you pre-booked. or
Right.
you. So yeah, no, there are like many different. Once you read the plate, like as I always say, anywhere where there is a car, there is a business opportunity for us.
Right.
No, if you think about it, like,
Right.
and there are
Sure.
cars everywhere. Like I always say to my salespeople when they are lost, I say, well, I don't know, like go around and if there's a car, like ask us. Probably they need to do something with the like. There's
Right.
also many, but what you mentioned before, also marketing.
Right.
What you said about how many people are recurring and how many are just came once. That's
Right.
for a mall. It's very interesting.
Very
Like
interesting. Right. Very important number. And
that's just marketing.
it's just, but in the end, it's just marketing. Now, you know what the one-time visitors are, you know what the multi-visitors are, and you know all this information that we never had the ability to have before. And the same thing with you mentioned events, and the one that we're going to look at next week that I was standing on the island 2 weeks ago. It is an event operation, and when you this one's difficult because it's not just an event. There are also all kinds of other things going on around it. So they have to run it like a normal parking operation, which is hard when you've got also this huge event about to empty on you.
Mhm.
But for events, you know, the biggest challenge was always at the exit. Everybody just puts up the gate and lets the cars go out. But now with LPR, if you can learn how to do this, and I'm not going to go into the operational details here, but if you learn how to do this, you can really use LPR to a tremendous advantage for events. And it really can really help you manage this. So as we move forward, I have, like I said, the first conversation that I saw, the first presentation that I ever saw in the parking industry about LPR was 1997 with at an IPMI event in Seattle. And it was terribly interesting, of course, because it was airports, and I've watched it migrate from that very, very early stage to where we are today. So during that time, can you tell us some of the funny stories that you've seen with managing LPR and customers?
Well, yes, I think it's sort of a little bit about what we were mentioning before. One thing that I often see is that we think that people will buy the LPR and use it, no?
Right.
but but some like many times is not the case. Like I've seen many even airports that bought the technology, they had it on the RFP and all of that. And then when you go inside and you won't go on the island, as you mentioned, you see that like they're not really using it. It's like, just in case that, yeah, if somebody lost the ticket or something like that, but they are not taking the real advantage of it. So even if you
Right.
prepaid, they still want you to insert the ticket and all of that. They're not taking the advantage of the fast exit
Right.
that you could have. And it's extremely common. And sometimes just because they don't know, like that has happened
Right.
to me. Like I asked
Right.
people then on site, they're like, "Oh, can I do that?" Like they don't know. And some others say, no, it's better to put it like that because I prefer just in case I have the car there. I don't want them to leave. Like so, it's sort of like also adapting, no, to the technology.
That's a big challenge, is getting people to adapt to a new technology. We don't understand all the time. Somebody that lives now in what is a very dynamic industry, I lived in it during a time when it wasn't, and they just don't know. It's, you drive up and pull a ticket, and you drive to the exit and you pay that ticket, and that's the way they see it. When we start sticking new things in around there, so it really goes back. Lee brought up a real important point early on, and that's the communication side. And it's hard even for us that are deeply involved in the technology to realize a bigger number of people out there just don't understand what we're doing. And that huge number of people that go, okay, you got a license plate, but you got a ticket, and I want you to use the ticket, and I'm really not concerned about the license plate. And it's a real challenge on our part to the communication side of it.
And communicate also internally to the frontline people. That's something that I've seen. For instance, we had an inventory system in an airport, but they spent the money, we bought the vehicle, And then when we were there, they were saying, no, but it's not working. So we went to see, and
Right.
the people, like, there were, like, I remember there are like two ladies, like in her,
Mhm.
I don't know, 60 years old ladies. And they were like, I'm not gonna ride that. Like, I want to walk. Like, so I prefer to walk. I have all my plates here written down.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna ride that. And she really, like, and I think still today, I don't think they're using it. Like, she like, the problem there, I remember when we came back and we wrote the technical support report, it was like, well, if you don't turn on the vehicle and you don't drive, it will not work. So, but it was funny. Like, the frontline employee, they said, no way, I don't want to drive. I want to walk. So it's funny, you see, like, it's communication between us and the people who's buying this, but also between the people who is buying the technology and the frontline people that then have to use it.
Right. It's terrible, and it's wonderful to talk to you about this because we just here in the last couple of seconds, you've done a great job of bringing up one of the real challenges that we're going to face, whether it's LPR or any other technology. It's that changeover in adaptability and the people out there who just want to stay with the old way and don't want to do some of the more advanced technology now. But we have it, and it's in our business every day. We, us, you, everybody have got to learn how to help that group of people to adapt to what we're trying to do. We're not, I know you're not putting anything out there that's not terribly good for a parking operation. But on site, there are a few people out there that really don't want to see it or don't really care. They don't think it's that great until you teach them. And I've seen this 100% of the time. As soon as you take that person who doesn't want to cooperate and you really spend time communicating with them, all of a sudden they're all in. They really are all into this, but it just takes a little bit of extra communications for them.
Right,
So
100%.
this is such an interesting topic. I think we could talk about this all day long because it's so involved now in parking and obviously becoming more and more and more involved every day. There are so many operations out there that I see every day that could greatly benefit from starting to look at the benefits of LPR. And so it's certainly a tremendous change as we move forward. And it's great to have you on our podcast to be able to talk about this. We all learned a lot this morning. And I think we're just beginning to learn everything that's out there. So you're invited back 100 times. Okay. We could do this podcast many times and still not have learned everything and all the benefits that LPR are bringing to our industry, especially with the changes that are coming when you start matching the license plate and then the description of the car, and you start putting those two together. The world that opens up for us. You know, we're on the accountability side. So the more information you can give us that ties up this accountability, the better off we are, because in parking, ultimately, we have to account for every vehicle and all the money that's associated with those. So accountability is a terribly important thing about this industry, and it's something that we struggle with over the years. So I'm really excited about you and what you're bringing to the table for us. And this has been a great podcast. I really enjoyed it. Okay. Laura, you still with us? She's also in the middle of a hurricane, guys. So we may lose her a little bit every now and then.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, you're doing great.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah, we're doing great.
Okay.
We're glad to have you. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it, and it's really added a lot to our podcast to have you here and this interesting LPR topic.
Clive,
Yes, Laura, thank you for
so
joining
much.
us. Is there
Thank you,
anything else you
Bob.
wanted to add?
No, it was a great experience. Like, really, thank you so much for inviting us. And yes, no, anytime. Like, I loved it. And I think, as you said, like, there's nothing more important than, generating information, giving product awareness. So that's how we really bring solutions, like just talking about it and communicating better.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I have terribly enjoyed it. It has been so interesting Laura, to have you on. You're so knowledgeable of this. And thank you for your journey to get from Italy all the way to Miami. And so we're so happy to have you in our industry. You're a great representative of our industry.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
to
Thank
our
you.
listeners, we hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we loved recording it. We are the Parking Network, and we're here today with Laura Caillot with Sure Vision. You guys have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, all.
To quote one of the greatest business minds of our time, Charles Munger, he said, "The best thing a human can do is help another human being know more." Here on our Parking Industry Podcast, we want to provide knowledge and resources. If you heard something that sparked your curiosity in today's episode, please reach out on our socials at TPN Consulting. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. See you next time on Our Parking Industry.